It is Monday, October 7th, 2024. This is another edition of Baseball Today presented to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. That is my man, Trevor Plouffe. I am Chris Rose, producer Dan, along for the ride as well. Happy divisional round series. We haven't done a show since these things started, and boy, do we have plenty to talk about, buddy.
We got a lot to talk about, Chris. These things have been meaty, and the games have been great. Back and forth. Then we got whatever happened last night in LA, which is just crazy. But yeah, I'm excited to get your thoughts on it. I've done a little bit of talking baseball, but I want to hear what your big brain has to say about all this stuff.
I thought you were going to say big mouth instead of big brain because
you do have a big mouth.
What?
That's true. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Let's get it going with a tip of the cap. And it's part of what stirred the emotions, I think, in game 2 between the Padres and Dodgers. So I want to let you know, I am sitting on the set doing game day highlights. So that's the first of 2 shows I do on Sunday. And I have this game on, but it's kind of out of the corner of my eye. I'm a little busy. And I see, the Dodgers just tied it up because the graphic pops on the screen. I was like, Mookie went deep. They're like, yeah. And then I see it's 1-0 about a minute later. I was like, what happened? Did we have a reversal? They take the home run away, and they're like, we think Profar kind of deked the entire crowd here. I was like, oh, that is cold, dude. That is cold.
Yeah, I mean, it was obviously a great play, and that fence allows for, some home run robberies and some fan interaction right there. And I think Dodger fans, if you're really, want to get mad, I think you got to get mad at yourself right there. You don't let the opposing guy catch a ball like that. I mean, you can't be bad. It's a security guard there, but you got to go out and get that ball away from them. But Profar just did a great job of being aggressive to it, understanding where he is, understanding, that wall does allow you to go get it. And it was awesome, man. He's had a great season. He's got everything going for him right now.
All right, well, let's get to that best of 5 series. It is tied at a game apiece. They got an off day on Monday, and then it'll resume on Tuesday, which hopefully means things will simmer down. I don't know if that'll mean that the Padres bats cool off at all because they had not 1, not 2, not 3, 4, 5, but 6 homers on Sunday.
He drives the ball right center field. Edman back. It is gone. The Padres tee it off. Second of the game for Tatis, and they've got double digits in game 2.
Oh, man, just a lot of emotions going through. Just fans showing just enjoying the time. Obviously, they went a little bit crazy, but this is what playoff baseball is about. And man, we're gonna keep showing up and show our beautiful talent that we have.
I totally forgot when I went and looked at his playoff numbers, which are disgusting, by the way, that he didn't play in their 2022 run all the way to the NLCS.
Yes, he's something else, man. When he's on the field and he is performing the way he's performing right now, and when he gets like in front of the bright lights, it's his ball game, man. Like he's so impressive to watch. And you could say what you want about Fernando, but you cannot deny the talent that lies within that guy, and just the aura that he has. It's undeniable, Chris.
Well, so he's crushed it not only in the playoffs, where I believe he has about 100 fewer at-bats than Mookie Betts, but has more postseason homers than Mookie Betts. It's almost gotten to the point where they can't pitch to him. So between his numbers in the playoffs and his numbers at Dodger Stadium, like I think that Dave Roberts, I know the next 2 games are at Petco, but they have to really think about what they're doing when he steps into the batter's box.
100%. I mean, Machado's behind him. He's no slouch himself, but I think he's a little bit more prone to chase. I think you have to take your chances with him rather than Fernando right now. Because Fernando, I don't even really know what I'm saying, except when I look at this guy and like the length and the coverage of the plate, like when he's in the box, he just looks like he's too big for it. Like, where are you going to go with that ball? He could take any pitch out. We saw him go to right field right there. Obviously, he can pull balls. We saw him do that earlier. Like, he is just – the coverage is too much right now, where you're right. I think you either put the 4 up or you just crazy expand the plate against him right now, because anything around the zone, he's getting the barrel to.
Yeah, and just to clarify, Machado hits cleanup. So it goes Tatis, then Profar, and then Machado. Okay, but let's talk about the rest of the game. It was as bizarre a game as I can remember. You had, first of all, the Tatis stuff, which I don't mind players going back at fans and having fun. I really don't. Like, he was wiping away the fake tears a little bit. There was a lot of jawing from the dugout. Listen, whatever gets you going, because this should not be a one-way street. The stuff you guys hear as players, to me, it's embarrassing. Some of the stuff with the gyrating and things of that nature, I don't know exactly what's going on. I think it's playful.
Oh my God. I
I don't
didn't
know.
see that one.
Do you have any problem with what's going on from Tatis's side of things?
No, I don't, man. And I think that's what like fans want. Like in the end, he said this is a show. He talked about that after the game, and it is. I talk about that all the time. It's entertainment. So you're there at the ballpark, and what heckling fans want more than anything is acknowledgement from the player. That gets their juices flowing more than anything. I think Tatis does draw energy off of the crowd, and I think the back and forth is fine. Like as long as it's just talking and that's 100% okay. We draw the line is when you start throwing stuff on the field, you never know what can come down. It's just that part of it is not acceptable. I don't think you can blame it on LA. We've seen this, in a bunch of ballparks around Major League Baseball. LA really gets a bad rap for that. The bleachers out there, they were out of hand last night. You can't be throwing stuff in the bullpens. They threw stuff at Profar, threw stuff at Tatis. It just wasn't a good look for Los Angeles last night. But as far as Tatis and the interaction, I don't have a problem with that at all.
No, I mean, listen, the throwing stuff on the field, you've got security guards who are probably getting not paid enough to try and interact with fans who are
Can I say that the first one to Profar, like he hands the guy the ball and he throws it back in, like I don't have a problem with that. It wasn't anywhere close. And I think that was kind of like, would I have done that? No, I would have given the ball to my son that was standing right next to me. But that one was like, that's not that big of a deal. Like it was almost like throwing back a homer. Like Profar hands in the ball, he throws it back. I didn't have a problem with that. It was everything after that. Next ball gets thrown at him, the stuff in the bullpen, the stuff at Tatis, which I think was beer. I
don't have time for any of it. I mean, even the first one, which seems rather benign, like the guy came over and gave you a ball, right? Like I understand you're not supposed to like the Padres. Don't throw anything on the field. Not your job. Your job's to sit there and cheer and boo and whatever. Like,
look, I don't like the throwing back a home run either, but that happens all the time.
No, I think it's stupid. But in this particular time, the guy actually made a point of walking a ball over to you. Like
that was the guy that should have been batting the ball away in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. Do your job. Do your job at some point. It feels like to me that the Padres have been a very emotional team over the last few years. It's part of what gives them the edge, in my opinion, at times. They really play the game very differently, and I think they celebrate the game very differently than a lot of teams out there. And I think that Machado bringing them together for that team meeting, I thought that was probably pretty smart on his part. Like, hey, guys, let's focus. It is like this dugout against the rest of the stadium here. I thought that was pretty wise for him.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's been around the game forever, and I think he commands a lot of respect. I think this meeting was for him just as much as anybody else, too. I think he was telling himself, okay, I need to calm down a little bit. The stuff between him and Jack, which I'm sure we'll get into, the emotions run high. A lot of things are said. This is a great rivalry, Chris. These two teams do not like each other, and that stadium, it was bringing things out in players last night that typically wouldn't happen. You're seeing the exchange right here. I guess we can just get right into it. I mean, Jack said after the game, like after he struck out Manny, he was just pumped up, juices flowing, and you don't know. I don't know what it's like in that situation. None of us know what it's like in that situation, but it's a spike of adrenaline. Things happen that probably typically wouldn't happen. I think today, if Jack woke up, I don't know, maybe he would want to do everything the same. Maybe he wouldn't, but I know that he was mad about Machado throwing the ball into the dugout. He talked about that after the game. He said it was a little bit excessive, and he was He said, we only saw the tail end of it, me barking at Manny from the dugout, but I was just trying to stick up for my team. It was. I want to sit here and say this. I don't have a problem with any of it. Like, I think fans love that stuff. It's emotion coming out that, like, this is real stuff. None of that was predetermined. That was just coming out in the moment because of the energy in the ballpark, because of the situation calling for it. I mean, everything is so elevated. And yeah, like, are we going to sit here and say we want these guys to control their emotions so much? Like, yeah, a little bit, but don't you want to see the fire, man? That's when sports are at their best. So, like, you can see, I'm sure, look, Padres fans are going to have Manny Machado's back. Dodgers fans are going to have Jack Flaherty's back. In the end, dude, like, this is just two guys, like, going at it to the best of their ability for our entertainment, which is awesome. To me, Chris. I was watching that game being like, this is exactly what the game needs. As long as everyone is safe and we're not, like, I thought it was A+ entertainment.
Yeah, I mean, people at NFL Network were asking me, well, who are you rooting for in the Dodger-Padres series? I said, I'm rooting for 5 games. I said that at the beginning. I said, all I care is that it gets back to Los Angeles. That means I've been entertained. I think that if you take a big step back and look at it from a bird's eye view, I think the Padres are thrilled with how things went down in LA. They took it to both of the Dodgers starting pitchers for the most part. Darvish was phenomenal in game 2. Cease was not good in game 1, but I think overall they're winning the battle a little bit of emotional warfare, if you will.
Yes, and I think my big takeaway is they found some guys to neutralize Shohei.
Yeah.
Like Tanner Scott, if in a big situation you need an out, and it could be in any inning. Like, that's what I think Schultz is thinking now. Like, Jason Adam did it as well. But if it's in the 4th inning and you got a crazy situation and Shohei's up and they got nowhere to put him, you can bring Tanner Scott in, and it looks like he's got his freaking number. And that, to me, might end up being the difference in this series, because we don't know what's going on with Freddie Freeman. I think everyone collectively is like, it seems like everyone's just waiting for Shohei to do something. And obviously, he's been there, did that off Cease, which was awesome. But if you can neutralize him, I think, man, you got a really good shot in this series.
Yeah. Well, remember at the beginning of that series on Friday, we said, well, we're going to pick one guy from each team who is the key. And I said that it was Mookie Betts based on his recent playoff failures. And unfortunately for the Dodgers, that part is continued. I mean, I don't want to point to one guy, but he has got to get it going, particularly if Freddie Freeman, they're listing him as day-to-day. He came out of game 2. He went sliding into second in game 1 on a stolen base attempt. Like, we don't know if the guy who normally hits behind Betts and has been so dependable for more than a decade at this level, if he's going to be ready to go. If I'm the Padres, I feel great. We're going to get much more into the game 3 situation when Michael King is going to go against Walker Buehler. We'll do that on Tuesday's show. But overall, the series says it's even. I'm not so sure it's even.
Yeah, I would lean San Diego. I mean, you split at Dodger Stadium. You get to go home with a chance to close it out. So, and the Dodgers starting pitching is obviously very much up in the air right now. And I think that's also a difference maker. I would lean San Diego, but I wouldn't put it past anything in this series. I mean, this series and the next one we're about to talk about, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yep. And we'll get to that one just a second. But of course, in LA and in San Diego, it's been hot. It's been steamy, but across the rest of this country, sweater weather is coming, and it pairs perfectly with savory fall foods. But with your busy schedule, sometimes it's hard to eat the way that you would really love to, and that's where Factor comes in. There's more to Factor than just lunches and dinners. From easy breakfasts and smoothies to delectable midnight snacks, Factor has over 60-plus add-ons to help keep you fueled and focused 24/7. And with a plethora of flavors, you know what? You're never going to get bored, which is a big-time deal to a foodie like me. Now, this fall, you got a lot going outside of the kitchen, but keep your plans and turn to Factor. They deliver fresh, nutritious, chef-prepared meals ready to eat in just 2 minutes, right? I love them particularly for the middle of the day. For the most part, I'm good elsewhere, but in the middle of the day, that's when my stomach starts grumbling and it goes, Rose, must feed my belly. So if I don't have my factor meals, if they haven't been delivered, if I forgot to order them recently, I look in the fridge and I'm like, damn, there ain't anything. So then I start eating stuff I shouldn't be eating. And you know what? I keep trying to find filling up my body the right way. It doesn't work. But when my factor meals are there, perfect, ideal, and I'm taken care of all the way until dinner time. So I want you to head on over to factormeals.com/today50. Use that code today50, get half off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That is the code today50, factormeals.com/today50. Half off first box, 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Believe me, end of the day, you're going to feel fine and full. All right. Our appetite was taken care of in Philadelphia. The Mets, the Phillies gave us so much entertainment on Saturday and Sunday. And boy, the Phillies needed that walk-off to get them back in the series.
Into left field, down the line, it's a fair ball, and the Phillies have tied the series. Back to Queens, one apiece. Castellanos the hero.
That's a big win going 1-1 back into New York. So I expect that to be a pretty hostile environment. We're looking forward to that. So a lot of fun.
I think you nailed it, Bryce. It's going to be a crazy environment up there at Citi Field. Once again, as I mentioned, I thought like San Diego has the edge. I thought the Mets taking it to the number of bullpen guys of the Phillies was A, borderline shocking, and B, is something that Philadelphia is going to have to figure out quickly if they want to get past the Mets in this series.
Agreed. Yeah, we've seen Strahm now get hit back-to-back days. I'm not as worried maybe as you are with the Phillies. I mean, you got Aaron Nola going game 3. I know across the diamond there is Sean Manaea, but Nola's pitched really, really well at Citi Field. He's just the kind of guy that I don't think any situation really flusters him. So I like the fact for Phillies fans that you got this guy kind of like old reliable for you on the mound. And then you have the momentum with your offense here, and you hope that gets kind of everyone going. I think you could say the same thing that the Phillies, got to the Mets bullpen last night too. So this is close, Chris. And I almost feel the same exact way as we're talking about Mets and Brewers in the wild card round. We're like, I don't know what's going to happen. This team's crazy. The Mets always are coming back. The Brewers are matching them. It seems like every single time someone scores, the other team scores. I feel like we're going to see a series like that here also with the Phillies and the Mets. I just – they're two good baseball teams, two good baseball cities going at it. And it's like, I just can't wait for these games to start. I feel like the playoffs this year have been really good for baseball. People that say playoff baseball is one of the best things on TV. It's showing itself right now over these playoffs.
Well, in part because with the Mets, what we've seen really even over the last 10 days is their ability to not only come back from any sort of deficit, but put up crooked numbers,
Yes.
right? I think the other day on Saturday that Fox had a graphic where their 4+ run innings, they either have the most in baseball or are tied for the most. And that is tough because as the other team, you're like, okay, we're up a couple, we feel okay. And then all of a sudden, Mark Vientos is going to click in, we're tied. Like what just happened?
And against elite relievers too.
Yes.
They're not doing this off, a long guy or something like that. We're talking about Raisel Iglesias. We're talking about Devin Williams. We're talking about an all-star Matt Strahm. Like it's been against the best of the best, which is, again, like if you're Philly, you're feeling good. If you're New York, you're feeling good. Like this is what baseball's supposed to be, Chris.
Well, Philly really set the tone in game 1 with Schwarber's home run, which I think still might be going. Then they went, like 6 innings with 1 hit after that or something. It's just like they fizzled, and Harper was frustrated afterward. He was like, we have to do a better job collectively as an offense to figure out, they're trying to get us to swing and miss with Chase. Like we have got to be more disciplined. We are a veteran lineup. We're as seasoned as it gets of all the teams that are left. We have to be able to recognize that stuff. And I thought obviously they did a much better job in the back half of Sunday's game 2 there. I think that the Mets are playing with extreme confidence. I don't think they're bothered by any situation. I mean, look at where they've zigzagged across the country. It feels like they haven't played a home game in like a month. And that is something that has galvanized them because it's
Yeah.
basically them and a handful of Mets fans that have traveled from Atlanta to Milwaukee and now Philadelphia. And I can't wait to see what the energy is going to look like for Game 3 at Citi Field.
I mean, these guys have to be running on fumes. Like imagine trying to go to sleep after these games. You know, I saw the Mark Vientos interviewed him talking about how like he hasn't been sleeping, but he's just running on like the pure adrenaline of the playoffs, man. I think whenever this Mets run ends, whether it's after the World Series or whenever it is, I think these guys are gonna be like, "Whoa, what did we just do?" Like, they're gonna look back at this and really, I think eventually, no matter what happens, like pat themselves on the back because this team has been so resilient and they've been accomplishing things that seemed like they shouldn't be happening. They're doing it, man.
I think it's great for a guy like Nick Castellanos, who obviously has had, I think, at best, an up and down career in his first 3 years in Philadelphia, to be able to kind of seal that, and came back with a big time home run earlier in the game.
That was
You know,
awesome.
yeah, he's a guy that they need, particularly anybody that is hitting close in the lineup to Bryce Harper has got to deliver, because that dude, I don't know if you give him the Tatis treatment right now, and make him chase and make him hit your pitches. But dude, when he gets anything near the zone, holy smokes, man.
Yeah, it's very important for Castellanos to pick it up. I think he embodies like Philly. I really think he does. And like, you know, he'll get booed from time to time, then he'll get obviously, you know, hoisted on everyone's shoulders in that city from time to time. So he really experiences the full spectrum of emotion. But that's kind of the player he is, kind of the hitter he is. Like he can get streaky. Like he had a really tough start to the year this year. Then after, I don't know what the date was, you know, mid-May, you know, he's had a really good season. And there's going to be times where he looks horrible at the plate, chases everything, but then he'll lock it in and give you a game-winning at bat. He'll hit the back-to-back homer like he did with Harper. I audibly gasped when he hit that. I thought that was such a cool moment, man. And you could tell Bryce took his time around the bases yesterday when he hit that home run. He's feeling good, wanted to experience that. Castellanos hit it, sprinted around the bases just because there was just that much emotion going on with him. It was really cool to see.
Yeah, he had a little bit of Adam Rosales. Once again, the
Nice drop
NLDS
right there.
will take the day off, and they will resume in action on Tuesday. We'll get to both American League Series in a bit, but first, this word from my buddy Trevor Plouffe.
After 162 games, we are in October. October baseball is the best. Get in on all the playoff action at DraftKings Sportsbook, from same game parlays to live betting to odds boosts and so much more. DraftKings has you covered until a champ is crowned. And you know, right now, all new customers who bet $5 will instantly get $200 in bonus bets when you use code BASEBALL today, all one word. Stay in on the action and use your $200 in bonus bets to bet anytime homers on DraftKings. And all you need to do is download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Like I said, use promo code BASEBALL today and bet just $5 on any wager. You're going to get that $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's promo code BASEBALL today, only at the DraftKings Sportsbook.
All right, American League Series back in action after Game 1 on Saturday. They took Sunday off to rest, and Monday night in the Bronx, the Yankees will look to take a 2-0 lead over those little plucky Kansas City Royals. We had a back-and-forth Game 1, and an unlikely hero took a starring role late in that one.
Witt jockeying back and forth. Base hit to left. Chisholm can fly. He rounds third and heads for the plate. He would have beaten the throw anyway. It squirts away from Perez, and the Yankees jump back in front, 6-5.
Fans booing me, fans getting on me, man. I understand it. You know what I mean? Like, I was booing myself too. You know what I'm saying? Like, we ran through a course where I just kind of let it, you know, spiral out of control a little bit, and you know, for me, it was, you know, just really leaning on my guys in the clubhouse, man. They all got my back. They all know what kind of player I am, and you know how I played throughout my whole career.
That, of course, the dulcet tones of Alex Verdugo, who got the start in left field, much to the dismay, I think, of a lot of Yankee fans, and ended up producing a really big night. Obviously, the game-winning knock there in the late going. He had another hit as well. Overall, this is what October is all about. It can either build you up, based on what you did or didn't do during the regular season, or if you had a great regular season and you do squat in October in a place like New York, it's that simple.
100%. That's why I love it, man. I love when baseball gets to this point because all the numbers go back to zero. And you can take that either good or bad. You know, if you had a bad season, like you said, the numbers 0-0-0 looks great to you after a bad season. Yeah, Verdugo made a nice catch down the left field line. I think, you know, he got put in that position because Jazz Chisholm has, you know, brought athleticism and speed to this Yankees lineup, which I think they desperately needed. And he steals that bag. Some are still debating if he was out or safe.
What do you think, by the way?
I thought he was out. I thought you saw a little bit of daylight there.
Me too.
You know, but it was close, man. And when it's that close, call in the field's gonna stand. We've seen that a lot this postseason. A lot of close calls that I guess could have gone either way, but you know, that's just part of the game right now. And Royals fans aren't happy with that. But you know, it wouldn't shock me if something went their way in the as far as the review process goes too.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
At some point during the series.
I wasn't as definitive as Ron Darling was on the broadcast. I didn't think he was that far out. I thought he was out, but at the same time, I don't know. I don't know what angles they're dealing. Remember, they are dealing with totally different angles than the ones we are watching on the TV broadcast at home. But back to Verdugo, an 83-plus OPS. That's nowhere close to league average. But in a dozen playoff games in his career, and remember, he's had time in other cities, an 879 OPS. So Doogie, for whatever reasons, able to lock in, able to get stuff done. I mean, with New York, if you want to go all the way back to the legendary Hall of Famer Dave Winfield, after he signed that enormous deal with the Yankees in the early 80s, George Steinbrenner was calling him Mr. May. I mean, it's, you know, you're not getting another version of Reggie Jackson, you know, in Mr. October. You are getting Mr. May, and that's what you're being called by the guy who signs your paychecks. So that's what you expect out of New York. So all will be well if Alex Verdugo continues to drive in runs and make great catches and all that sort of stuff. And by the way, if he stinks the rest of this series and they get eliminated, well, they're going to let you hear it. And that's the way it goes in good baseball cities like this. If you're Kansas City, do me a favor. The Yankees are a good enough team where you do not have to issue free passes. Maybe it's nice. Maybe it's just a nice thing you're doing. You cannot give up 8 walks to that Yankees lineup. Half of their runs scored on guys that were issued free passes. The Royals made a big deal this year. They actually printed T-shirts talking about rein it in. Not rein it in as in like we're world champs, like rein it in like, hey, motherfucker, throws strike. And it did not happen for a lot of these guys in game 1.
Yeah, no, it did not. I think there are times where you can use the walk to your advantage, but that was not the case here. I mean, Zerpa came in. It seemed like the moment was probably a little bit too big for him. I think a lot of people are wondering if they should have pulled Waka. I think I'm back and forth on that, Chris. You know, the way that managers are thinking about these games right now, especially when you got guys like, you know, it was Soto's coming up, Judge is coming up. Do you want Waka to see them for a third time? Would Judge, obviously the numbers there. Yeah, I mean, yes. I think he was thinking, hey, let's let our lefty go get Soto. Let's pitch around Judge. Let's have a lefty throw to Wells, and then we bring somebody else in. I think that was the game plan. That was the lane, and it just didn't work out.
Yeah, but here's my thought process on it. And it's easy to say, well, he shouldn't have done it now. And Zerpa, to be honest with you, in his previous 9 appearances had been incredible.
He'd found it. Yes.
He hadn't given up anything in 8 2/3 consecutive innings. So really good on that part. So the philosophy made sense in the short term. The problem is when you pull Michael Wacha after 70 pitches and he hasn't gotten any outs in the 5th, that means your bullpen, which is not elite, it's better, but it is not Cleveland. It wasn't Philly during the regular season with a couple of all-stars. It's not been what Detroit has been over the last 3 months and actually most of the year. You have to get 15 playoff outs on the road in the concrete jungle. And even if Zerpa does his job, you have to rely on probably at least 4 more guys to get you through the rest of the game. And I don't know if that bullpen is built for it. So while it makes sense in the grand scheme of things and the way that baseball is being played, I still think that the best guy throwing the ball for the Royals on a given day can be the guy who throws the first pitch of the game.
I agree. Maybe they'll change their tune and allow their starters to go a third time through the order. I'm assuming that's just what the thought process was. Like, hey, like we can't let this happen. We know what the numbers are. Even though Waka's own judge, and it's really it's funny to watch that. I'm not funny, but like I've been in his situation where you just don't see a pitcher. You just don't see him. You can't get on rhythm with him. I agree. They're not the Tigers. They're not the Guardians. That's not their strength. Their strength is their starting pitching. Their strength is their athleticism. It is their defense. So you really should continue to play to your strengths. I think that's exactly what he was just looking at, though. Like, hey, I got my lefty here. Get Soto, walk Judge, get Wells. We'll bring somebody else in. They did have Lorenzen. They have him in the pen to cover some innings. So maybe that's what their thought process was. He can go maybe one or excuse me, more than one. He can go 2 innings. So again, it's easy for us to sit back and say it didn't work because they walked everybody.
Right.
But I understand the thought process. I do.
Well, they will not be pulling Cole Reagans on Monday night.
They will not be.
They're going to need him to get more than 4+ innings out of this if they're going to even the best of 5 series. It'll be a pair of lefties, Reagans and Rodon. Do you have more questions about the younger left-hander or the more veteran Rodon, who has admitted that he can get a bit emotional out there?
I mean, I don't really have questions about either of them. I think they're both going to go out there and do their things. I think we are going to see Cotrero really rely on Reagans and, yes, try to push him past. I think he's one of the guys that he will trust with that. As far as Rodon dealing with his emotions, let the emotions fly, big guy. I think this is the time to let him go. Harness it. Use it.
Yeah. The Royals will not win game 2 if Reagans does not pitch at least 6 innings, which is something he did a few weeks ago against the Yankees. He'd given up only 2 runs, striking out 7. I think he walked 3 guys. He's a guy that can get a little loose, too, with the strike zone. So we'll see. Yeah. Should be a good series. We'll have much more on it on Tuesday's show. As for the 4th and final divisional round series, Cleveland tries to hold serve and take a 2-0 lead. Of course, they're going to have to go against the guy who is the likely unanimous Cy Young Award winner in Tarek Skubal later today. We'll get to that in just a bit, but that pretty much made Saturday's game 1 for the hometown team a must-win, and they came out swinging the sticks.
Infield back, double play depth, and the pitch swung on, hit high, hit deep to left, away back, goal!
The way we looked at it was we're going to get 5 days of rest. We get to recover, we get to turn off for a few days, and we worked them hard. To the players' credit, they put a ton of effort into our workouts. They got competitive with each other in some simulated games, and it showed. We came out ready to swing the bats, and we looked like we didn't take 5 days off. So really proud of the way the guys got after it the last 5 days.
5 was actually a very big number for the Cleveland Guardians, who put up a 5 spot before the Tigers even recorded an out in that series. And that is the biggest question. And even though they did it in game 1, it'll continue to be the biggest question from Cleveland's standpoint is, can they put together enough good at-bats against this solid Detroit pitching where they can end up winning the series? And the answer is through game 1, yes.
I mean, they don't – the way their pitching is, Cleveland's, I mean, they don't have to put up a ton of great at-bats. They just got to push across a couple runs, it really seems like. I talked about this on Talking Baseball. I thought just Stephen Kwan's at bat, the first one, double. That's just a tone setter right there. I think that was probably the most important at bat because it got everyone saying, okay, we're here. Playoffs are here. We can hit after 5 days. Everything feels fine. And I thought that was really, really good to see for them. But yeah, that game was over. You score 5 runs like that with their pitching, the way Tanner Bybee looked, and settled in really nicely there. I think he wasn't too happy that he got taken out before the end of the 5th inning. But when you have the weapon that they have, I mean, that game was exactly what Cleveland wanted to happen right there. You get an early lead, you let your starter go, into the 5th inning, you have the bullpen. It was A+ for the Guards.
It was very interesting because the tandem of Brian Anderson and Jeff Francoeur, who I happen to think are a very, very good broadcast team. I was laughing. I watched the game with Josh and with my brother Pete, and they kept saying, AJ Hinch is going to sleep great tonight. I mean, They ended up getting all their guys in the game, pinch hitting, and some pitchers in, and they're gonna sleep great tonight because they feel. I was like, yo, bro, they just got their butts kicked. Now it was only one game. It was only one game, and yes, you've got Tarek Skubal going 2 of the next 4. So from that standpoint, you go into a series where you're like, we just have to figure out how to win probably one other game. It doesn't mean that Cleveland can't beat Tarek Skubal, but as you kind of flip it ahead to game 2, it's 2 good buddies in Matthew Boyd, who was kind of a mentor for Tarek Skubal for many years. I think that Skubal's actually from Seattle, just like Boyd is, if I'm not mistaken. But both left-handers, good friends who kind of put their friendship, I think, on the back burner, at least for 3 hours on Monday. When you're facing a guy like Tarek Skubal, his last 10 starts, he has given up either 1 run or 0 runs in 7 of those 10. I mean, he is as on fire as anybody in baseball.
We talked about that. The Tigers have that advantage. You don't want to just give them 2 wins every single series, but it's hard not to with the way that guy's thrown the ball this year. I believe his last start against Cleveland, he actually got hit, 10 hits total.
Yeah, it was
only 1 run. Were they soft?
I don't remember, but it was 9 singles. The only thing is that it was the only time they faced each other. You have to remember, these 2 teams did not see each other after the trade deadline. So they didn't see each other in August or September. And the Tigers are very different than obviously the last time the Guardians played them.
Yeah, this one's interesting to me because I feel like, obviously they play baseball and they approach the game very similarly, these 2 teams, especially right now. The Tigers kind of changed the way that they played after the trade deadline, and they, started this bullpen usage the way that they do. And if I'm looking right now, I would have said, and I still might say that I think that the lineup advantage might go to the Tigers, but they're relying on a lot of young guys, and I think having a guy like Jose Ramirez in the middle of your lineup, I think helps Cleveland out a lot. I want to say that I like the Tigers lineup more than I like Cleveland's, but at the same time, I think like almost everything is a wash here. I really do. I mean, where do you lean starting pitching? Because you have Tarek Skubal, do you lean Detroit? That's really all that they got.
I know,
like their one starter, dude.
I know, but that's all that they've got is pretty damn special in a short series.
So you lean starters with Detroit, even though they only have 1.
Yes.
I mean, you probably lean Cleveland's bullpen, even though Detroit has a good bullpen, and then the lineup I think is
pretty close.
Pretty close.
Yeah, they're both these teams aren't going to hammer you with homers for the most part. Yeah, I think that they're kind of similar, and that's why I think that it might be heading back to Cleveland, and you might have Tarek Skubal on the mound for Game 5, which could be a real problem for my hometown.
Or Cleveland could just go get him today, and
they could
be talking a completely different series, obviously.
Yeah, listen, they're not going to hang a 5 spot on him in the first inning. I think the Cleveland goal is to use a little bit of the Mets blueprint, like keep it close. Yeah. And Zach Wheeler, whom we didn't even mention in that divisional round series in Game 1, was incredible. But the Mets at least got him out after 7 innings, which means they didn't have to face him in the most critical parts of a 1-run game. So,
yeah. Brzezinski and Wainwright were talking about that. It doesn't matter who's coming in after a guy like that. It's just not anybody different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that that's probably the way I would look at it. And by the way, people pay attention to this. I have seen enough playoff games in that stadium that start at 4:00 local time, like it's going to on Monday. The number of strikeouts you're going to see in the early part of the game, particularly I think Skubal, obviously much more than Matthew Boyd, is a strikeout pitcher. The Guardians are going to have to try and put the ball in play. That is not going to be easy to do with the shadows the way that they are.
Agreed.
Those things can get rough. All right. Today's episode of Baseball Today is brought to you by Booking.com, the official accommodation partner of Major League Baseball. Booking.com, booking.yeah, divisional round. We're smack dab in the middle of it. You still, though, have time to explore those U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to learn a little bit more about. Yeah, we're talking about your baseball rival cities with hotels and bed and breakfasts and vacation rentals and resorts and so much more on Booking.com. You might just find your perfect stay for this postseason. Yes, even in your baseball rival cities. In 3 of the 4 divisional round series, you can get in your car and be there in less than 3 hours, right? Detroit and Cleveland, that's probably the longest drive. Philly and New York, you could take a train to either city. LA and San Diego, mileage-wise, we're talking about a little bit more than 100 miles. Now, that might take you 6 hours depending on traffic, but you get my point. If you want to see your team compete on the road and go to a different venue, I tell you, go do it, because there's nothing like watching your team in playoff baseball, but in playoff baseball at a strange venue in a different city. And then if you walk away a winner, you just sit there and bask in the glory. From hotels that look over stadiums to family-friendly resorts to cute little bed and breakfast stays, Booking.com has so many choices across this great country of ours. And the right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your baseball rivals. So book today on Booking.com and download the Booking.com app today. If you don't go to a game, stay home, watch it wherever you are, and then grab your second screen, your computer, your phone, anything, and keep it joined right here with your John Boy Media family, because the stream that we put up can sometimes make your emotions boil over.
81 pitches from Luis Severino and Bryce Harper! No way! No way! Have a ball game in South Philly! Yes! Nick?
No way.
Nick!
No way.
Nicholas! Nick!
Oh my God!
Too high, right?
No way. No way. No way. No way. Oh my God! Again! 1-2 pitch. And they got the walk off! The Phillies win game 2!
Okay. First of all, did Shelfie just come back from outer space? What does he look like there?
Don't. That's my rotten partner right there. Let that man celebrate. How about Jake just kind of, for lack of a better word, slutting it up going in between two streams right there. Okay, Jakey boy. That's awesome. The guys are, our office is divided right now. It could be even more divided if it ends up being Mets, Yankees. That's just young guys having fun right there.
That's what it's all about. It is fun. That second screen experience is great. We're going to keep it going throughout the postseason each and every day. So we got 2 American League games. We'll move on from New York and Cleveland after Monday. We'll get back to action in the Queens and in San Diego on Tuesday. I got to keep my brain fresh here. Remember where we are at all these places. But it's going to be an awesome, awesome few days around here. So for our one-of-a-kind producer, Dan Rourke, the uber-talented Trevor Plouffe, I am Chris Rose. We will see you Tuesday here on Baseball Today, presented to you by Booking.com.